everyone got very quiet even before I said anything. Welcome. I'm so excited to see everyone in this space to celebrate the one and only Lorene Cary. I'm Julia Block, Director of the Creative Writing Program. And first, I want to thank our generous co-sponsors, the Center for Africana Studies, and also the Department of English here at Penn, without whom this would not have come together. I am going to hand over the mic very shortly after a couple of quick announcements. Number one, we do have copies of the book for sale in the back. And we'll have copies of the book for sale in a second location, about which I will tell you in a moment. So we're going to hear from Lorene this evening, and then at around 7:27, we're all going to have a collective journey a couple doors down to St. Mary's. It's at 3916 Locust, in case anyone needs to run to Wawa first or something. And we're going to hear a live performance of an excerpt from the Gospel According to Nana, which is Nana. I don't know why I said Nana. The opera based on Lorene Cary's new memoir. There will also be books for sale at that location. So if for some reason it slips your mind, you get there, you realize you still need your copy of the book, you can absolutely pick it up there. So I am going to welcome to the podium three people who are going to introduce Lorene Cary and leave it to them. Welcome, Sara, Sonali, and Samira.
Hello, everyone. It is my profound honor to be back at the Kelly Writers' House to introduce Lorene Cary at the celebration of her new memoir and its Ladysitting and its sister opera, The Gospel According to Nana. You may know Lorene as a professor of English and Africana Studies here at Penn, or for her work on the School Reform Commission in the early 2010s, or her founding of Philadelphia Black arts organization Art Sanctuary, SafeKidsStories.com, and most recently, the #VoteThatJohn initiative. You may also know her as the author of the inaugural One Book, One Philadelphia pick, Price of a Child, or her other works, Black Ice, Pride, Free, and If Sons, Then Heirs. I've known Lorene for the majority of my adult life, academically as a brilliant, patient, and passionate educator, professionally as an energetic leader, a writer to aspire to, and an avid juggler of two of the things she loves most in the world, children and writing, and personally, as an endlessly generous mentor and friend. I've long admired Lorene for her forthright storytelling and wry wit, both of which she brings in droves to her latest work. Kirkus Review calls Ladysitting a thoughtful reflection of pain, love, and family. It is Lorene's first return to memoir since her acclaimed book, Black Ice, and tells the story of the final year of life of her centenarian grandmother, a fiercely independent woman who staggers into vulnerability and increasing frailty with age. A woman who practically refuses to die, surviving pneumonia, a car accident, and infection until degenerative heart disease knocks her into hospice in the rectory Lorene's family calls home, fast enough to blow their eyebrows off. It is a vibrant, mortally honest meditation on the end of life, upbringing and ancestry, Blackness, the inheritance of family pain, loss, and love, and it is something very special. Now, please join me in welcoming my colleagues, Samira Mehta and Sonali Deliwala, as they share some words about Lorene.
Hi, I'm Samira. I'm a junior at Penn, and I had the amazing experience of taking a class with Miss Cary during the fall semester of my sophomore year called Nonfiction Now. And to be honest, it was my favorite class that I've taken here at Penn because it gave me the ability to express my creativity openly, and it allowed me to write for a purpose. And because of that experience, I have been working with Miss Cary ever since then on her initiative #VoteThatJohn. So I just wanted to say that I'm really excited to be here today, and I'm excited for Miss Cary and her new book, Ladysitting. And so I just wanted to share some words about Miss Cary. So one thing that I really admire about Miss Cary's writing is that she's able to encompass her entire personality, from her wittiness to her quirky humor, in everything that she writes, from her books like Ladysitting to something as simple as an email. And so she just has this really conversational way of writing that draws you in and really like grasps your humanity and takes you along for the ride. And so I'm just really happy for Miss Cary and this accomplishment of publishing this book. And so thank you again for having me here today. And I'd like to introduce my colleague Sonali.
I took Miss Cary's Nonfiction Now class 1 year ago, and I remember that during our first class, the first thing she asked us was what we write and who we write for. Throughout the course and during the past 2 semesters that I've worked with her on Vote That John, she always urges us to think about who we write for so that we can make our writing purposeful. Working on Vote That John with Miss Cary has been an incredible learning experience for me, and she has taught me so much about communicating, sharing, and connecting with young people. One of my favorite moments from Miss Cary's class was when she asked us to all join hands with those sitting on either side of us, so that our linked hands ringed the wooden table of our classroom. I was sitting next to her, and she started tapping out a rhythm on my left hand, her heartbeat. Then she asked me to replicate the beat for the person sitting next to me, and then that person to my left did the same, and so on. Soon, we were all tapping each other's hands with the original heartbeat that Miss Cary had initiated. We all felt her heartbeat, even though we didn't feel it directly from her. Writing does this, she told us. It allows you to touch people without actually touching people. Miss Cary writes with an engaging blend of intricate detail, which she calls the cilantro and lemon that you add to the main course, delightful wit and humor, gripping directness, and of course, immense purpose and passion. Her writing paints pictures of vivid detail and creates emotion to connect and converse with the reader. She always asked us in class, how does this piece make you feel? Emphasizing that our reactions as readers were important, because that spoke to the purpose of the writer's work. When I read Miss Cary's writing, I am irrevocably drawn in, captivated by her effort to bring the reader along with her, to experience and respond and emote with her. Please join me in welcoming Miss Cary. Good evening.
It's lovely. I'm so grateful. I'm very grateful to you. Of course, it's terrible because these young people already have too much to do, and then the way I show how much I care about them is to ask them to take more time to say something nice about me. It's terrible. I feel really bad. But I'm grateful. But, you start realizing that wasn't. All right. Let's just read some, huh? Why was it that weekends at Nana Jackson's felt like a world apart? Maybe because dressed in old ball gowns, I traveled with the sun patch across the floor of the suburban New Jersey neo-colonial and soaked in more light and luxe than my parents' West Philly apartment could ever offer. Delight and time, the wide-armed, fragrant mimosa to climb in the summer, the fireplace to stoke in winter, and choices all the day long, whatever your little heart desires. Yes, I knew I was being spoiled. That word that obsessed black grown-ups and even kids. What could be worse than to be spoiled? Ruined by indulgence, incapable of withstanding hardship as we had done and would do in future. We were brought up by hand, as surely as Pip in Great Expectations, and much prouder of it than he. you spoil, could get you a beat down, corrective, and fast. Besides, everybody needed to respect authority, learn limits, and above all, to know that older people valued you, that they loved your undeserving black behind enough to bring you back from wrong to right. I knew myself to be a wimp, a failure in the toughness category, which was why I went insane with terror at the sound of my mother coming for me, or my father reaching for the threatened, though seldom used, belt. If a kid down the street got a beating, and in our cheek-by-jowl row houses, we heard each one, I'd be good for a month. So believe you me, as my mother would say before administering some firm guidance by hand, I knew good and well that my whole Nana deal was off the charts, spoiled. Which was why, with peers, I kept it to myself. What happened in West Collingswood stayed in West Collingswood. Nana's weekend abundance did not feel unconditional by any chance. By any means. Our contract was that I would occupy myself while she got things done in the morning. And then in the afternoon, she'd spoil me. But the time alone felt more like Sabbath, as if God visited me occasionally in those sun patches and let me curl up to its presence. One of my earliest memories with Nana at her house anchors the rest. I wanted a drink of water and went into the kitchen. Nana wasn't there, so I reached for a glass. They were small Libby juice glasses, diner style, wavy and thin enough to feel beautiful against my palm. I forget whether I climbed up to reach the metal cabinet that opened with a ping or found the glass in the counter. Either way, I knew it was too high for me, and I knew it. As I knew it, the tiny tumbler dropped from my hand onto the linoleum, where it crashed into sharp pieces. Fear flooded me from scalp to gut. My mother had warned me to behave well on these weekends. She sent just right outfits, perfectly laundered, so I'd look like somebody cared. She instructed me how to make my hair twists last overnight, because Nana, with her straight hair, never could comb mine properly. That is, fuzz and naps pulled back hard enough to straighten them. Above all, I was to do there what I had learned to do at home, to anticipate what was correct and to do it before Nana had to ask. Now, instead, I chattered one of the 1,000 glass hazards in this breakable house, with its bric-a-brac ceramic white faces and Chinese antique stuff everywhere. All things that I was usually careful to look at and not touch, except for the Chinese doll, which she let me rub sometimes. I'd get in trouble with Mommy for failing to be careful, and that would be bad, but I was used to it. What was worse, though, was that I had broken the spell. I'd wrecked the charm of my magical place. Nana would be angry, and I would no longer be the trusted, free-range granddaughter, free to play records over and over and pick out tunes on the piano, and dress up and roam freely to sing and draw and make up stories in the middle-class museum of her house and garden. I could hear her rushing down the carpeted steps, my gut wrenched with dread. "Oh, honey," she said, "what happened?" I knew I should admit wrong and apologize. But how could I? The metal cabinet pressed cold against my back. Nana looked back and forth, frowning, inspecting the scene like a diorama. She could see my original misjudgment, and worse yet, the moment of willfulness when I knew better but grabbed the glass anyway. I was crying by now. That's what you get. I think I began apology blubber. Nana took my right hand, turned it over, and then smiled. "Oh, I thought you had cut yourself." She said, clearly relieved, "We can always get another glass. But we can never get a new hand, can we?" Sabbath returned, not a charm, but a peace we could choose. She never hit me. I don't know why I'm going to do it. Usually I don't read this scene in a public group, but hey. Nana came to us. She stayed in the rectory. That was a really good summary. I hope you'll give it to me. I can use it sometime. So lovely. And I'd forgotten that moment in class. I forgot. You make it sort of sound like a cult, actually. But, you know, sometimes you're working with students and like, they're just not hearing. Like, they're so busy and they're doing stuff and they don't, and you talk about, you know, it's got to be here. You know, it comes in here. We can't just write from the neck. And they're looking at you and it's like, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, you think maybe if we touch. One night I fell asleep on the toilet with the door open to her room so I could hear her. Nana came to us, by the way. She was on hospice. They said that they thought she would last some weeks or something, and she got better. She said, "You're taking such good care of me, I can't die." She got better and better. She lived with us for a year and a half. And that's what sort of this is about. This is toward the end. One night, I fell asleep on the toilet. When you write about the end of life, toilets always, there's always toileting involved. Hers, somebody's. So, excuse me, but that's the fact. One night, I fell asleep on the toilet with the door open to her room so I could hear her. I was confused when I heard her shouting that her leg was stuck in the slat of the bed, which I'd raised after she fell a few nights earlier, either going to the potty or bypassing it altogether. "Hang on, Nana." How could I shout loudly enough so that she could hear me without waking up Bob and Zoe? Calling and wrenching, one cellulite free leg protruded through the bed rail. I was washing my hands fast. "Coming, coming, coming." She couldn't hear me. Why say it? "I'm stuck in this thing." She rattled the metal bed. Terrified that she would break her hip, I touched her leg and shoulder at once. "Nana, just a minute, please. Let me see how to get you unstuck." "I know I'm stuck." "Please stop pushing." Finally, she submitted to lying down and letting me roll her away from the bed rail to free the leg and put down the rail. The exertion, however, had proved too much for her bladder. The bed was wet. "Come on," I said. "If you sit here on the potty chair, I can change the bed." Nana asked for a basin of soapy water to wash herself while I made the bed. Irritated at having to stop, I got the basin, set it on the folding table, put a washcloth in and a towel next to it. I took her right hand and ran it over the toilet items so that she could feel where they were. I kept the room dark so that our bodies would remember it was nighttime. Both of us were inclined these days to wake up and fuss. Besides, her vision was so minimal that she did most things by feel rather than sight. We moved to the sound of water and cotton. I thought the movements were soothing. I helped her into a fresh nightgown, sat back down onto the bed. What was supposed to happen was that she'd lie down on the tight, fragrant bedclothes, snuggle into the mommy blanket. This is a little blanket that my girls had always used when they were sick. They said to me, "If Nana keeps the mommy blanket forever, like what will we do when we get sick?" I mean, really? Really? Does she have to have it every night? Snuggle into the mommy blanket, blessedly still dry, and comforted, she would relax into the breeze of the fan at the foot of the bed. And this was part of the evening routine. Instead, she stiffened with the same energy that had poked her leg through the rail and sat up straight and white against the nightlight and said, "I'll never go back to sleep." Oh, Jesus, Nana. Well, I have to. I will. We have got to sleep. Then she looked at me, her eyes dark in the nearly skeletal face. "You wish I was dead. I know it." I moved back to sidestep spittle. "You want me dead, don't you?" Now it was raw biology, generations competing. Her care versus my sleep. If she didn't get care, she'd die. If I didn't get sleep, I'd... what? Reach the end of love? Find that my love for her was as conditional as I found hers had been for us? Would I begrudge her this essential sharing of life's energy? Would I find myself tempted to betray love itself, as sacred and as regular as air and water? God and the breath of life. Without sleep, how could I stay in the cave of her room, once an elegant parlor, now some transitional place between life and death, and spin straw into gold? I needed sleep to knit up the ragged sleeve of rage, of not getting my own, of never being able to satisfy her, as I felt I hadn't satisfied my parents and ancestors who demanded redemption through their offspring. She had called me out all right. I couldn't answer. It was early morning, the witching hour to be sure, when she gave and demanded a raw, sometimes ugly honesty. "Don't you?" I leaned over and hissed into her ear. "You are shouting, Nana, and I have been trying to empty the bucket. I cannot shout back. The family is asleep." "Oh." A swallowed syllable followed me to the adjoining bathroom, showing me that she still had breeding and courtesy, as if the yelling to awaken us all at night never happened. Of course, part of me did want her dead. I wanted a full night's sleep without worrying about the next crisis, the next stink bug that she'd swear was a bee, which she knew and we didn't, that would sting and sting and sting her when left alone and vulnerable. I wanted her to take with her the demons that trailed behind her outside the windows, in the trees, lighting up the landing and bouncing back and forth between the mirror and the windows where the chair rail landed. Yes, I wanted to stop the collapse of the Nana I'd known into this person whom I recognized and had been a fool not to notice before, back when she had more flesh to hide the bones, and courtesy and material health to hide the fear in her heart. That heart! So many demands now as it tried to pump blood through muscle and past bone, that remembered all the times over a century when she'd called for God, who had no more answered than her mother, dead when she was 6. And so her heart pumped through the closed loop of remembered rage, no choice but to lash out against and then withdraw from anyone who did not love her perfectly. And from Lizzie, her mother, on through the entire century, none of us had. So yes, even though after she died, I stored the grief in my muscles and in my fat cells and in the marrow of my bones and in the joints where I could not reach it, and where, if I did more and more service for children, for Black people, I could keep it mostly undisturbed, like crystals in the joints, like liquid in a cyst that will not be absorbed. "Okay, we know it's coming, Nana." I said it close to her so that she could hear me without the constant, unintended emphasis of shouting. "We both know that, Nana. But listen, hey, you're still here. I'm still here. How about a snack?" By now, Nana was sitting up in bed, her flexible legs bent under the covers. "Well," she pondered, I know this might sound funny coming from someone so close to death, but you want to know what's in the fridge? She laughed her hollow laugh. How about those fancy tarts with the fruit? Do we have any more of those? I think so. Let me go see. When I returned, we arranged ourselves around the tea table and tucked into a substantial low tea. The small light on the night table was on. I can still see it behind her head. There we go. You know, I don't like readings where people keep reading and you think to yourself, oh my God, she'll never stop. And I have to go to the bathroom or, or something. So I have one little short bit to read about the opera, or we could just not and talk and have a conversation. What's your feeling? Want to conversate? Of course, there's the fact that I was my mother is getting ready to move into a retirement place, and I was late coming over here because we're we were tussling over the fact that there isn't enough room for all of her clothing in the new place. I found myself saying things like, I am not trying to take joy from you. Which means, you are eventually, right? Yeah, has to be. And, don't tell me about Harlem. It was awful. Okay, so let's go back to here. All righty. 10 years later, I wrote to clear away the rage. This is, wrong. After I returned to Philadelphia, I was with my nephews, my little nephews, who were in the back of the van asking me questions. It was like a death trip, these nephews, who were coming to spend the night in the rectory, and they said, how did Nana die? And they loved the minivan. I would sit in the front, they'd sit way in the way back, and they'd shout questions to me up there. They loved that. How did Nana die? It was a death-themed drive. Were you there? What did she look like? They were like 3 and 4 or 5. Did it hurt? Is she back in her house now? Her old house? Funny, intuitive question, that. After I returned to Philadelphia, Nana came to me in dreams. She was sitting in her wheelchair, banging her fists on the padded arms, demanding that I get her back in her house in New Jersey. Weak and clouded over with cataracts she'd refused to have removed, her eyes nevertheless burned into me. Get me into my house, she shouted. I want to come back. We had to clear the house, give away the storage locker full of tchotchkes, and sell it 4 years into the recession in order to honor the named gifts she had left in her will. I could only hope there'd be enough to cover them all. But the dream was not about practical facts. It was about my fury and hers, which seemed to have escaped the dream. A haunting was beginning, and I had to stop it. I thought this was a dream, but now my eyes were open, and although Bob's quiet, even breath was beside me, I heard in it the death rattle. When I closed my eyes, she was there in the wheelchair, frowning, impatient, demanding an answer. 10 years later, I wrote to clear away the rage, uncover the simple grief stored in muscles that seized up then and cannot remember how they were before, and to convince us both, Nana and myself, that she has left this plane, and to forgive. It has taken some doing. Turns out you can't just threatened, like Nana couldn't just die, like we couldn't just sell her house, like I couldn't just renovate the Dickerson building, like I couldn't just find a way out of the bitterness of finding that her love wasn't what I had thought, and nor was mine. Turns out I was to write the libretto for a mini opera with the composer Liliugai. I wrote a mezzo-soprano part for the character of Nana's ghost, who wants to find the libretto about her haunting and destroy it. She knows that when it is performed, she will really have to die and leave the granddaughter alone. But it turns out that after writing the damn thing, the granddaughter is not sure she wants that either. Granddaughter, I felt like I was losing you. Nana's ghost, you are. Love means that I should go. Granddaughter hands Nana's ghost the portfolio bag she's been looking for, but Nana's ghost does not take it. Where I'm going, she sings, what would I do with paper? Or a bell? The opera opens with the bell, and there's talk throughout the book of the bell we gave her so she could ring for us. Lily Ugai said, and we'll see if she comes on the Skype. Yes, Lily Guy said, I want real bell. I want Nana's bell. And she put it in the opera, so it opens with the bell. And then it says, what would I do with paper with a bell? The line that I wrote and deleted 10 or 15 times never made it into the final version. It's where I started this book. You never hit me when I was small. It didn't sing on its own, and it would have pushed the music into drama that would have competed with the final resolution. This was a 30-minute piece max, but I needed that line for myself to open the box I'd kept locked as tightly as Nana kept hers. So I'll stop there. Doing fine, thank you. Doing very well. Thank you very much.
Under the bed storage
There's,
for your mom.
no, please, no. Stop, somebody stop. Excuse me, that lady has to go. That lady has to get out of here. Lilia. Hi, Lilia Guy. This is the composer, Lilia Guy, who wrote the opera, Gospel According to Nana.
Thank you.
They have not seen it yet, Lilia. We're going to go to a church a few blocks down, as you know. Will you tell us what was best about writing this? We're going to hear the third scene. Tell us what we're listening for, what was good or what was challenging.
Yes. So first, good evening to everyone, and I'm sorry for being here in the corner outside of my house because my son is, my baby is asleep right now, so I'm trying to not disturb him. It's really fantastic that you're doing this performance. You all can hear me well, right?
We can hear you, but the phone keeps going up and down, moving around a lot.
Oh, okay, because I'm trying to find the best place for my microphone. Okay. So I think for me and for us together, the most challenging part of it was to sort of to come this to actually make this resolution and to have it justified why Nana would let a granddaughter do what she wanted to do. And I have very special feelings for this piece. I myself understand very well what it is like. So for me, it's not just because of just Nana and daughter, but for me, it's generally more the theme of a parent who has to let the kid go to kid, and that universal. That's something emotional about. So, what should we listen for? Um, I don't know. I myself would be listening. And there's right in the beginning there's this there's a key there. It's very hidden, so it's not very obvious. But it's in the introduction of in piano. But what creates illusion, sort of something like from the present we look to the past, and then Nana and granddaughter entering this duet. To me, it's very touching always to think about it and to listen to it. And there's this skating, Nana skating dream, which I think is also very cute and a little bit childish, as I wanted it to be. And then it all goes into this whole another like stylization of earlier classical opera when they think about the waterfall. And that's something I used throughout the whole opera and used before. So because it's like sort of Nana's imaginative opera, and her imaginative opera is like Mozart's operas. Yes. So I think that's all I would like to say at this point, unless you have some other questions.
No, because you got a little frozen, I'll just point out that one of the things Lily was doing was writing different forms of opera, and the form that she used for Nana was more what a 100-year-old person who has a subscription to the orchestra would think of as opera. So it's very melodic. It's got a lot of that going, and then when they have their duet, there's that singing, but they're also remembering the childhood. They remember the childhood very intensely right before the grandmother says, "I'm going to go." And for that, Lily created when they talked about being under Niagara Falls, and it's a trip Nana and I made. She drove me to Niagara Falls when I was in 6th grade. So it was this wonderful car trip, and then we stood under. Everybody knows that. So we used that, and Lilia took that and just has this tumbling, kind of musical tumbling, and it's in a duet where they're remembering being under the falls right before the grandmother says, "You are losing me because love means I would go." Right. So, and you did that in a very beautiful way. And remembering the dream, as you said, it's kind of childish. I was having this dream, I was skating, and the grandmother is saying, "Yes, and I pulled you into my dream." And we had the dream together. And the granddaughter saying, "Yes, I sort of liked being pulled into your dream." Because all the shrinks talk to us about we must have boundaries, and sometimes it's nice not to. Sometimes it's just nice to just mold together like candle wax, even though it's not really great later when you need to burn your own flame. Sorry, it's one of those metaphors, right? I mean, I didn't think it through all the way before I did it. Oh, it's like being in class. Lily Ugai is in Florida, in Tallahassee.
Yes,
You were finishing your PhD at Yale when we met, and
Yes.
This is your first university gig, yes?
This is my first university job.
At Florida State?
Yes.
Yes, which has an extraordinary music department and opera. So Lily is there with her husband and her new baby in
Yes.
Florida. How did we meet?
How did we meet?
Yes.
We met at ALT,
ALT, American Lyric Theater.
American Lyric Theater. Yes, and we both had to struggle because I had to commute from New Haven, which was 2.5 hours of train ride, and Lorene had to commute from Philadelphia to New York, which was, I think, about the same. Yeah.
And it was a composer librettist's development program where American Lyric Theater chooses 3 composers and 3 librettists. And you, all year long, it's like getting a master's in writing an opera. So you have classes 2 or 3 times a week with 3 week-long intensives where you go every day during those weeks. Lily had no baby at the time, but was finishing the PhD, was always doing lots of classes and lessons and saying, I have to get back for a chamber. So we do assignments together, and each of us would get on the train and then call each other from the train. And it was so late, and we were so tired. It was so miserable.
Right.
You'd run up to Grand Central, and I'd just be right by Penn Station. It was...
Yeah.
Great, and I loved her music. We did. The first thing we did together was the Robeson piece.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And then our director, the program director, had to choose how to pair. So we had three composers and 3 librettists. So he had to choose how to pair us for the final project, and we had this. We had great chemistry with Lorene, I think. Although I didn't really expect that it will be that good, because we have a lot of differences, obviously. Lorene, you can tell, right, how we found the subject. I don't know if you told already.
No, I didn't tell them. So we had to find a subject, and Lilia said, "I'm thinking about this amazing unfinished novel of Dostoevsky." I said, no, Lily, I can't do it. I can't. I read all his finished novels. I've got like 2 or 3 weeks I have to turn in this book, and I'm teaching, and I got to turn the book in, and we're doing this New York thing. I can't do Dostoevsky. Then Lily said, well, all right, maybe something easier, kind of fun. You love children. I'm thinking maybe Punch and Judy, you know, with the puppet. I said, no, I can't, Lily, I can't do anything. So then Lily, seeing that she had before her somebody who was about to lose it, being the oldest rookie learning to write opera, it was awful. She said, tell me about this book. Maybe we can do something from that. Tell me some of the stories in the book. And when she said, I love those stories, I think I could do something with them. I could have, Lily is, you can't see that she's a small in stature person. I wanted to pick her up and just hug her. So that's when we tried to figure out what to do with that. And I came up with the idea of having like there are movies about writing movies, and that. So I thought I'll do an opera about writing an opera. And there's the granddaughter who's a librettist, trying to make these changes in the opera, and therefore the grandmother's going to haunt. And we had a composer. We were given the voices. Were we given voices? No, we could pick.
We could pick, but there were
only 3.
Limitation for 3 characters.
Right, we had to do 3 characters. So that's what we did, and that's who we had. That's how we met. Thanks for asking. Yeah, it's almost time to move. Now, Lily, I don't know if we can take you with us, because we're moving down. Since you said not to do it in here in the house, I just want you to know. Yeah.
Well,
we're going to go down to the church where they have great acoustics and piano.
Great.
Right now they're practicing and getting ready. So Summer is there. Summer Hassan, who was our soprano in New York, who lives here in Philadelphia, is singing.
Lucky.
Yes. And the mezzo is gorgeous. I've heard her. She's
great.
beautiful, yeah. So.
Great.
All right.
I'm
Thank you.
really excited to hear the recording afterwards. Pity I can't hear it live, but
boy, I don't know about the recording, Lily. I don't know. I don't think we have a recording. We'll take out some phones. Okay, we're going to do it old style. All right.
On the phones.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
But,
It's in a church, and their recording is not You
He's
know,
not
they do
allowed.
live.
Yeah.
It's just too
Well-
much money.
Yeah. Well, unless someone decides to record it on the phone. But anyway, I'm going to have it then in my head, sounding.
Good, good. All right. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lily.
Thank you so much.
Yeah? You think so?
We're going to go to the church. It's just a few doors down.
Don't leave.
You exit this
Don't everybody go
building
away.
and you just turn right, and it's just practically right there. So please join us. We're all going to walk together. Yep, it's just down here.
All right. Wonderful. Good. We didn't. For reading so much. I said I feel badly for reading so much.